Hello Rosenbergers, and welcome to my channel where I make videos. And before you ask, no, I didn't have to go this hard. The suit, the suspenders, the tie, I didn't have to do any of this. But I did it anyway. And you're probably thinking, Allie, what's the special occasion? Why are you dressed up so cute? Today, I'm doing something a little different. I'm giving you guys a little more of my brain, because I am doing a video essay. It is actually for a class, Music 205. This is my final, and it is also precious content. So without further ado, here is my take on Spotify, monetization, and the music industry. Before we start, I will say these are all my opinions backed by fact, because this obviously is an academic essay for which I have many sources. Those will be cited in the description below. And I will be including parenthetical citations right up here, or maybe here, I haven't decided yet, because I value academic integrity. Now, let's get rolling. The music industry has grown and changed more dramatically and more consistently than any other entertainment industry. Sure, books have evolved into audiobooks and Kindles, and movies and television have gone from VHS tapes to discs to online streaming. Throughout all of that, music has made the transition from exclusively live performances, to sheet music, to player pianos, to phonographs, to vinyl records, to radio, to cassette tape, to CDs, to downloadable MP3 files, to proprietary iTunes files, finally to the massive online streaming services we use today, predominantly Spotify and Apple Music. But what I consider to be the most fascinating detail amidst all of these technological advancements is that many of these technologies still exist and are still being used today. No one technology has directly and explicitly made another obsolete, even when all logic dictates that it probably should have. Even today, many people still listen to vinyl records, buy and collect CDs, and go to live concerts. Hell, I'm probably going to download an MP3 to use in the background of this video. All of these changes in such quick succession, especially the more recent jump from physical to digital media, has caused a lot of very famous and prominent controversy. First around music piracy, then around whether or not it was fair to be paying artists so little through music streaming services compared to what they were making through physical media. To me, all of this discourse can be summarized in one question. How much is a song worth? Now, this might seem like a simple question that we collectively should have figured out by now, but it's actually much more complicated than it seems. And before digitally downloadable and streamable music, this was a very easy question to answer. Prices for concert tickets could be decided based on the supply and demand for seats in a given venue, while factoring in the time and labor of the band and the behind-the-scenes crew. Vinyl, cassette, and CD prices could be based around the actual cost of producing the physical item, as well as a cushion for profit. But for digital media, there is no limited seating, physical supply, or even consistent labor per stream or download. The artists will write and record their song through their own time and labor, and likely money from the record company or their own pockets. Then, in theory at least, you can make money forever. After that, anyone downloading or streaming that one specific music file online will be at no additional cost or labor to anybody. So how much should we pay for that? And should it be free? Now, obviously, this is a very abstract philosophical question. How much is any piece of art worth? Value is completely subjective. So clearly you can't come up with an actual price. Spotify says 1/3 of a cent per listen? As you might expect, artists were mad about this one. A few large artists such as Jay-Z, Taylor Swift, and Beyonce even went as far as to boycott Spotify for a little while. You may be thinking, Allie, these are very big, popular artists. Why didn't this work? The same reason I still eat Chick-fil-A. The product is just too good to pass up. For $10 a month, or free with ads, you could have access to pretty much all music ever created. I've had Spotify since 2016, and I can count on one hand the number of times that I couldn't find a song that I wanted to listen to. Not to mention the value. I have over 1,500 songs downloaded on Spotify. At the minimum iTunes price of 99 cents, that would have cost nearly $1,500. And that's not even considering the songs that I stream without downloading. But that takes us to the question that I get every day. But Allie, how do you live with yourself? Maybe it's because I'm just a terrible person, but I've always found it hard to feel bad about artist exploitation on Spotify. Even if it was an easy opening shut case of piracy, I just find it hard to care about a cause where the alleged activists and victims and spokespeople are multimillionaires. I know smaller artists are affected too, but I can't help but get the mental image of Coldplay guilting me for not giving them more money for their music while they continue to sell out huge concert venues on tour. But of course, the big artists, they aren't doing it for themselves. They're doing it for those poor defenseless little guys, the indies. Surely, if it affects giant pop stars like Jay-Z and Taylor Swift, then Spotify must be killing the indies. They must be making no money, and thus no music, and are unable to support themselves, and then they die of starvation and a broken soul. They can't possibly be making it in an environment like this.
Foreshadowing is defined as a literary device in which the
Chris Martin's net worth aside, how much should artists be making per stream? Because 1/3 of a cent is a very small amount of money. On one hand, why should we pay at all? There's nothing physical that exists here. It's just a digital file that won't be affected by me listening to it. If I Googled a picture of the Mona Lisa, I wouldn't get charged for looking at it, so how is this different? On the other hand, this digital file is the product of someone's time, money, and labor. So while by streaming or illegally downloading, I'm not technically stealing anything from them, they're still being exploited. Well, you could argue that because the artist consent to Spotify's terms, it's completely fair. They don't have to be on Spotify. Originally, Beyonce didn't put Lemonade on Spotify, and that album did extremely well. But to be fair, giant artists like her could charge $50 and a punch to the balls for their music, and people would still buy them, me included. So then why did most of these artists end up putting their music on Spotify anyway? I mean, I'm not complaining. I got some fine additions to my Girl Boss playlist from Lemonade being on Spotify, but when an artist as huge as Beyonce can't even stay out of Spotify, you need to start asking why that's the case. I believe that in the current music industry ecosystem, where most listeners use streaming services, having music available on those services is fundamental to staying relevant, which clearly must be more valuable than any lost revenue from streaming, at least to Beyonce and Taylor Swift. But Allie, I hear you ask, if all these artists do is make music, how is relevancy more valuable than profit from that music? I mean, clearly relevancy doesn't pay the bills. And to that I respond, thank you, viewer, for your very detailed question. The answer is relevancy actually does pay the bills. Sort of. Music sales have never been artists' only source of income. There's merch, concert tickets, and all those dated physical mediums like vinyl and CD that people still buy. And clearly, since all of these artists continue to release music on Spotify, we can only assume that the relevancy for making their music accessible and available to more listeners is more valuable in the long term than ensuring that the smaller amount of people that would have bought their album outright pay full price. And all that's just from a monetary standpoint. I'm sure many of the artists themselves genuinely want to share their work with as many people as they can reach. And Spotify, with its mysterious, mystical algorithm, is one of the best ways to make that happen. Because Spotify effectively promotes music for artists to create a better experience for all of their listeners. On page 128 of Spotify Teardown, inside the black box of music streaming, Maria Eriksson describes Spotify's algorithm as working prescriptively, recommending playlists with the goal of trying to correct an unhappy mood. Though this sentiment is in relation to Spotify's generic playlists, it applies even more so to the personalized playlists and song recommendations. Spotify assesses our symptoms by examining our data, then uses that information to compile as many compatible songs as possible into various playlists, like the Discover Weekly and Daily Mixes. Before Spotify, it was a rare, special treat to find a song that really fits in with our tastes. But now it's just a part of the service that you pay for, just another part of the holistic Spotify experience. You see Spotify embrace this branding in the 2012 article on the Spotify website, introducing great new ways to discover music, where they say,
"We'll be your new best friend and offer hand-picked recommendations we think you'll love. We'll give you the full explanation of why we picked each song too, like any best friend should."
Creepy dystopian by and large energy aside, the algorithm has proven extremely successful. It not only benefits the user by connecting them with content that they didn't know they needed, but it also greatly benefits the artists, especially lesser known self-published artists and artists working through independent labels. And that's not the only thing Spotify's done for up-and-coming indies. In 2018, they started cutting their own licensing deals directly with independent artists, helping prevent artists from being exploited by bad contracts early in their careers, and making labels even more unnecessary than they already were. They also provide free resources for artists to better promote and monetize themselves. Back in the days of iTunes, my mom would give me a $10 iTunes gift card. That was all I had to buy music. Of course, I would always buy the big popular artist songs first, because I heard them on the radio all the time, so I already knew that I liked them. It was the safe bet. And I almost never took a risk on indie artists or even bigger artists that I hadn't heard of. And that was if I could even find them on iTunes without actively searching them out. But wait, that can't be right. Coldplay says that small artists are suffering, and I always believe what Chris Martin tells me. No, that can't be right. I'm just using my brain too much. I'm sure if I heard actual indie artists talking about Spotify, they'd just tear them to shreds. I'll just do a quick Google search and... Nah, this one's clearly fake. Lars isn't a real name. Maybe Twitter will have some real people. Ha, no way, this one's just an industry plant. I bet someone from Spotify tweeted this. Probably doesn't even have any replies. Oh, well, those are also probably Spotify bots. Let's see if I can find real footage of people talking about Spotify.
Spotify has offered an entirely new framework for artists. It's something that I'm internally grateful for.
What?
I would not have my job if I did this maybe even 5 years ago. I think it's crazy how fast and rapidly changing the music industry is.
No. That can't be right.
I can either do this by myself or I can sign a record deal. It's a choice that I was not afforded when I first started making music.
But Coldplay said... Unless all those big artists protesting Spotify were really just acting in their own self-interest. But that can't be right, because everyone knows millionaires always act with everyone's best interest in mind. Oh, wait, no, that wasn't millionaires. Sorry. I got them confused with elected officials. Yeah, elected officials are the ones that always act in everyone's best interest all the time. So even though Coldplay and Jay-Z say that they're doing all of this protesting and shaming people for the little guy, so to speak, smaller artists are much better off. So though this system does largely benefit indie artists and consumers, is it ethical to be paying little to nothing for someone's intellectual property? Truth is, there is no clear answer. Is listening to a song like Googling the Mona Lisa? Or is it like listening to something on the radio? Or is it like finding a bootleg of a Broadway show online? And the value people place on any specific song varies wildly. The point is, revenue from downloads and streaming services are only one form of debatably passive income for these artists. Maybe how much is the song worth isn't the question that we need to be asking. Maybe we should start thinking of streamable songs not as the product in and of itself, but rather a promotional tool for concerts and merch. We already see this in a smaller scale with YouTube. Creators here do still make some money directly through views on YouTube, but like Spotify, it's still a relatively small amount of money per view. In fact, according to SaveTheStudent.org, monetized YouTubers on average make about 1/3 of a cent per view, the same amount that Spotify plays per stream. But as anyone who frequents this website knows, YouTubers supplement their income in a variety of ways, including sponsorships, merchandise, and tours. just like bands do already. My dad, like many other dads, has been lecturing me about the history of rock music since before I was old enough to even understand what he was saying. Something he always says is that before there were 10 bands making millions of dollars, and now there are a million bands making $10. Taking that further, now with streaming, a lot of those bands are making enough to support themselves and put out more music consistently. Music is becoming increasingly decentralized, and I think that that is a wonderful thing. Before, you were either a major pop star making millions, or you were a starving artist earning next to nothing. Now there's space in between the two. Space for artists to thrive with a niche following and make enough money to live a comfortable life. There's more people making music right now than there ever has been. You can write a hit song by yourself in your mom's basement using GarageBand and SoundCloud. While it may seem like all of these changes have happened really quickly, leaving little time for artists to react and adapt, it's important to appreciate the larger context. Music is the most fluid, constantly changing industry that there is. Just when people think they have a grip on it, it turns into something entirely new. As a famous Pixar rat once said, "Change is nature, Dad. The part that we can influence. And it starts when we decide." Thank you.
So Longe Bowser, make room for the real king. Junior's baby mama dipped. Abandoning. Miyamoto wanted some cake, asked Nikki to take him to class, but didn't have the polygons for all this ass.